Chapter 13. The Story is the Thing. Tilly and Oscar followed Anne's bobbing red plates up a thin, twisting path with a tightly packed, silvery trees on each side. Around the feet of the trees were flowers and plants of all different kinds, and Tilly could hear birds above them and the wind whispering. She was not sure she had ever been in such a lovely place before. "This is Birch Path," Anne called back to them as they jogged to catch up with her. "Diana named it. Diana's my best friend in the whole world," Anne explained to Oscar. "I know the name's a little unimaginative, but I try hard to let people with less imagination than me join in too." She pointed up the hill. "If you go farther than that way, you get to Mr. Bell's woods, and down the valley is Avonlea School, where we're headed. And then, if you go any further that way, you'll see Green Gables." Oscar was very still quiet, stumbling over his feet as he stared around as they walked. "Tilly, are we really inside a book? How is that even possible?" "I don't know any of the answers either," Tilly said. "This is only the second time it has happened to me." "Excuse me," Oscar said, tapping Anne on the shoulders. "I don't mean to sound rude, but are you real? Is this real?" "Depends on what you mean by real," Anne said. Does this feel real?" She picked up a twig from the ground and poked Oscar on the side with it. "Yes, ow," he said. "So, you know you're a character from a book." "Yes, of course, although the story is the thing, not where it's written down. You're thinking about it too hard." "I hate it when books don't explain how everything works," Tilly muttered. "It's all very well saying that it's magical and wonderful, but what happens if I'm sucked into something like Animal Farm and get stuck there?" "Animal Farm sounds lovely," Anne said. "Oh, you wouldn't say that if you read it," Tilly said, feeling slightly mutinous. "Have either of you ever been to Canada before?" Anne asked as the three of them ambled along. "Wait, we're in Canada?" Oscar stopped walking abruptly, but Tilly and Anne ignored him. "No, never," Tilly said. "I've never been abroad at all. Oscar lives in France sometimes, though." "Sorry, can we go back to being in Canada?" Oscar said, catching up. "Well, Avonlea, where we are now, is in Canada. Therefore, we are in Canada, you see," Anne said in a kindly tone, as if she was speaking to a small child. "But how do we get to Canada?" "Because I live in Canada." "Right, but how do we get here from London?" "You came with me," Anne said, her patience fraying. "Okay, guys, stop, please," Tilly said. "Can this wait? Oscar, we are in Avonlea, where Anne is from. That's what matters. We are in her life, in her story, like I told you about Alice." "I still can't believe Alice took you to hers first," Anne said, obviously still smarting. "But I got Oscar." "Yay?" Oscar said weakly. "Do you truly live in France sometimes?" Anne asked. "How awfully romantic. That must be a very long journey. Some of the folks around here can speak a bit of French, but I can't at all." "Yeah, I really do. My dad lives there," Oscar explained. "By himself?" Anne asked. "With my sisters. My parents got divorced a while ago." Anne looked scandalized. "It's pretty normal where we're from," he said. "You're very fortunate to have both your parents," Anne said solemnly, thinking about linking arms with Tilly. "For we are both orphans. I haven't met many other orphans since I came to Avonlea." She. Hello, why this? So smart. Although it isn't very generous of me to say so, and Marilla scolds me if I do. Prissy is the one with the beautiful curly brown hair, and of course there is Diana, who you adore as much as I do. But I'm fond of Ruby and Sophia and Jane too, and of course there's another girl called Tilly, and she let me wear her ring all afternoon the other week because I admired it so much. And then there's Mr. Phillips, our teacher, and look, here comes Diana." Her face lit up as a girl with glossy black hair raced down the hill toward them. Diana, these are my friends Tilly and Oscar, who are visiting and are going to come to school with us. Diana didn't even pause to question this, but launched herself into a hug with Tilly before Oscar a polite little curtsy. How wonderful, and what a good day to visit. You'll be able to meet Gilbert, too, she added conspiratorially. He is such a tease, but he's awfully handsome. He's nearly 14, you know. He's always top of the class. Well, I would hope if he's 3 years older than you, Oscar said. Oh, but he's not only in our class because his father was awfully sick and went to recuperate in Alberta, and Gilbert went with him. You mustn't say anything like that to him, because it was terribly noble of Gilbert to go with his father and tend to him. And he didn't have the opportunity to go to school much in Alberta, you see, Diana said sternly as they walked into the schoolroom. The classroom was remarkably familiar, despite the old-fashioned clothes and desks. Children were hugging and shouting and arguing and laughing, hanging up coats and hats, but pulling out slates and chalk instead of paper and pens. The children acted in much the same way as the children in Tilly and Oscar's school do. Tilly could see only a group of girls obviously laughing at another girl, and a boy tipping what looked suspiciously like ink into another boy's satchel. Tilly felt a familiar discomfort settle in her that seemed inextricably linked to classrooms. She tried to take it all in and reassure herself that this was a different classroom and a different time, full of different, not to mention fictional, people. Anne maneuvered Tilly toward a double desk with a spare space next to a girl with a long blonde hair and pointed Oscar toward a free desk near the back of the classroom. Oscar stumbled toward it and stared wide-eyed at the children piling in, sitting down gingerly as if he expected to go right through the chair that couldn't possibly really be there. As everyone started to settle, Tilly's eyes caught by a movement behind her, and saw a tanned arm slowly reach for a blonde girl's plate. Before she knew it, the end of the plate had been pinned to the back of the seat with a tack. Tilly turned to see a boy with curly hair and brown eyes put a finger to his lips as Mr. Phillips asked for volunteers to help him hand out the slates. Before Tilly could do anything, the girl had stood up and was yanked backward as her hair caught, and she let out a piercing shriek, causing everyone to turn and stare at their desk. The girl sat back down and began to cry. Tilly quickly pulled the pin out of the desk and tentatively rubbed the girl's arm in what she hoped was a comforting sort of way. She turned to Anne for guidance, but Anne was glaring fiercely at the boy in utter disgust. He merely winked at her, causing Anne's cheeks to blush raspberry. Gilbert, Tilly said under her breath.